Hey everyone, thank you for tuning in to Pure Hustle Podcast.
Yes, thank you so much. We do have a request though before we get started. If you have found our content to be entertaining or helpful, would you consider leaving us a review on iTunes? Those 5-star reviews really help to make sure that our content gets out there and that our show continues to grow.
Enjoy the show.
Welcome to Pure Hustle Podcast. I'm Mike.
And this is Orlando, and we're on episode 358, an update episode.
Yeah, our update episodes are kind of our flagship episode. These are the episodes where we get to kind of talk about what's going on in our life reselling, maybe some recent stories, funny stories, maybe some cool things that happened while we were out garage selling or at thrift stores, weird eBay interactions, those types of things. And then we also get to talk about kind of what's going on in the reselling world, updates on big events, maybe changes in policies, things that have made the news with reselling, things that are going to help you with your reselling business. And then we also give you Bellow. So we love doing our update episodes every other Wednesday. And then we also have themed episodes, Monday episodes. So make sure you are liking, subscribing, that you are following us on wherever you get your podcasts, because you don't want to miss episodes. But yeah, so what's going on, Orlando?
It's interesting because I've mentioned before, like summer slowdown, right? We slow down, right? And so lately, I have been listening and I've been sourcing all this, but things have kind of calmed down for a little bit. My kids go back to school in a couple weeks, and I just took a trip with my son. And so, I haven't been reselling as much. I've still, I've taken the pictures ahead of time. And I even had clothing I had to. I can't stand listing clothing, but I took pictures of measurements. I can list those. And so, it's just been one of those things where you feel like you're working, hoping that things will turn around someday. And I want to preface this with a little bit. It's been interesting because I caught a few YouTube videos. So sometimes I like watching, smaller creators on YouTube, and we're small creators, by the way. Okay. But I like seeing, their thoughts. And some part-timers were saying, you got to be careful that you don't listen to the bigger resellers that are saying it's slow, because for them, slow may mean something different than what it means for a part-timer. Right. So somebody that's a big time seller, they're expecting to make, let's say on the bottom end, like 500 a day. Okay. 500 a day, because they're full time. And that includes shipping, that includes taxes, that includes everything. And, they're only making like 200 to 300, kind of, which is my life right now at times. And, they'll go like, oh man, things are really slow. Right. But for a part-timer to get those kind of numbers is amazing. Like, things are going really well. Right. And I remember those days when I was reselling part-time. If I was making, $1,000 a week, like, that was spectacular. Like, that was amazing, because, I wasn't paying bills with that, right? All that was just extra money, right? Money to pay off some debt, money to go, I don't know, on a date night, money to go on vacation, whatever it is. And so I want to preface, what I'm saying about how sales have been for me, meaning that I get it. Like, if you're part-time and you're listening to Orlando and you're like, man, Orlando's always super negative. I think it's perspective. Right. I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just showing the reality of, for me, things are slow. Like, I'm not making the amount of sales I need to be able to pay all my bills, to be able to have extra money to go sourcing and all that. Now, I do have some of that set aside. Okay. But it's been interesting. Right. I've mentioned before, like, I've never dipped in my savings as much as I have in the last 6 months. And so it continues. There's days where there's all kinds of crazy sales, and then there's the next day where it's like, all right, what's going on? I don't know. And the reality is, I think a lot of resellers right now don't know what's going on. And later on in our reseller topics, I'm going to talk about what I think is going on, what's happening. But I want to encourage you, if you're part-time, keep doing what you're doing, because you have the perfect scenario right now. Like, you have a W-2 check that's coming in, and you have your benefits and everything. And this is a great time for you, because, people are selling stuff for really cheap. And so you can buy that stuff for cheap, and it's okay for you to hold on to it for a little bit longer. It's even okay for you to sell it for a little bit cheaper than usual, because in the end, it's still profitable, right? If you're a full-time seller, I encourage you to, around the corner is Q4. And by the looks of it, everything seems, on the right path to a profitable Q4. It may mean doing a little more work. It may mean selling things for cheaper, but that doesn't mean that you can have a Q4 that you end up really profitable. So that's been kind of interesting. I am grateful though, while I'm traveling with my son, it's not 100% passive, but it was still nice to get nice sales. Selling an Xbox for 100, selling a buckle for 50, selling this for another 100. It's just nice to do absolutely nothing, which I already did the work. It's not like I didn't do the work, but it was kind of nice to just, go, be out in the middle of nowhere, having a nice meal and, oh, cha-ching, here's a meal, right? A cha-ching, oh, this is going to pay for, the concert tickets. Cha-ching, this is going to pay for the hotel. So it was just kind of nice to have those sales come through. And then garage sales have been just interesting because, the issue with San Diego is we can't handle heat. Like we if it gets over 90 degrees, we're dying. We're like, oh, this is terrible. This is a heat wave. And so it applies to garage sales. So garage sales lately have been, I've said this before, about 25% of them have been resellers that are trying to offload inventory. And this actually happened at the last garage sale I went to. Shout out to people in the Discord, Secondhand Solo. He came up to me at a garage sale and goes, "Not my G.I. Joe." And I was like, wait, what? Like, I was still waking up. Like, like in my mind, I wasn't putting it together. And I'm like, wait a second. You must listen to the podcast. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? And he's like, hey, it's Secondhand Solo. I'm like, oh, it's great to meet you. And so we're walking around and we're talking, and I go to another garage sale. And this gal, she probably listens to the podcast, looks at me and goes, "I know you. Please don't put me on video." And I'm like, "No, I'm not going to put you on video." And just, she was just trying to sell some stuff, because eBay right now is kind of, not what people are expecting. And so I've had a lot of, encounters with resellers on the garage sale path of people are just trying to flip stuff. I went into another garage sale. And it's the worst when you forget the address, but the moment you arrive, you're like, wait a second, I've been here multiple times. And so from the window, I yelled, I'm like, sorry, guys, I know it's going to sound weird, but I'm leaving. They're like, no, come over. We know you. Like, come buy some stuff. And I couldn't do it just because, I know that they're trying to get, a certain dollar, and it's not the dollar that I'm willing to pay to resell. And this is just where we're at. So I strongly encourage, if you're reselling, definitely find other ways to flip things. And that's what people are doing at the garage sales. Mike and I lately, I don't know if you've seen all the DMs, Mike, but we're getting a lot of DMs like, hey, I'm done. Or, I want to step out of reselling. Would you buy my inventory? And so there's a lot of that going on right now. So so if you're feeling that way, know that you're not alone. There's a lot of people dealing with that. And then, outside of all that, I've just been sourcing a lot of my own inventory that I've had for a while, and it's been selling. I'm always super interested when I randomly pick up items. I'll share one story. Did I talk about the Vietnam pins? Did I talk about that recently?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you did. Last episode or last update episode.
And how I sold one for cheap, and then I went to Worth Point.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So one of them sold for $100. But I keep finding more stuff that I'm like, oh, wow, I picked up all the stuff and I almost donated this and I shouldn't have. And so be aware, like, you never know. Like, if you've had big hauls that you picked up and you left them in a death pile and you're like, oh, they're not worth much, spend the 10-15 minutes just going through it, because you never know. It could be one or two items that you're like, wow, I wish, I'm so glad that I did not, donate this, because people are very quick to donate at times. And I understand it. Like, you want to remove whatever is, inhibiting you from doing more because you feel overwhelmed. But sometimes just go through it. Just go through that stuff. All right, I got more to share. But anyways, how's things going for you, Mike?
Yeah, I mean, things are going really good. I've kind of been doing a little bit more of like, I feel like a local is always kind of my or recently has been more my game, because I can kind of go on my own time. Whereas garage sales, even though normally garage sales is nice because it's, Friday morning or Saturday morning, sometimes Thursday morning, depending on where you're at. But I've just been so busy with the move, with visitors coming, with the start of a new school year. So with all of that, all those things, it's been tough to like say for sure I can like Saturday mornings. Whereas I can say like, hey, it's a Tuesday and I've got some time. Let me go on OfferUp. Let me see what's available. Let me go on Facebook Marketplace. Let's see what's available. And then it also, again, is letting me kind of learn this area. What are the areas where, because I mean, when I in San Diego, you're looking for certain items, but you can kind of see like neighborhoods. We knew which neighborhoods to go to for garage sales. I'm still learning that here. Like, what are the neighborhoods to maybe like, oh, there's a garage sale in that neighborhood. Oh, it's worth it, not worth it. So this has kind of let me explore the area, just kind of doing the Facebook Marketplace thing, picking up little odds and ends here and there. And then, so this is kind of cool. So my new district, so I'm a teacher full-time. That's my W-2 job, right? So that's where I'm getting my insurance, all those things, which allow me to sell part-time. But selling part-time is becoming more of an issue for me, or more of something that's it makes a significant impact on my life, because moving here took the pay cut. I've talked about that in the past. But what's kind of cool is my school district, a lot of the schools here in the Texas area are trying really hard to keep teachers. And so they're doing various things to do that. Money isn't always there, but one of the things they're able to do is kind of shorten the work year, or offer like Fridays off or every other Friday off. So our school district elected to do like 3 extra weeks, essentially like 3 5-day periods throughout the year. So almost 15 fewer work days that I'm going to have as a teacher this year, which is nice because the students get the same amount of time because we just extended the days a little bit. You're already on campus, you're already rolling, not a big deal. But I'm really excited about that because that opens up additional times throughout the year for me to do garage sales, for me to go to the bins, for me to really kind of increase my eBay. And we've got some listeners. I mean, we've got one in the Discord that I know was a teacher and has moved to full time. And I've talked with him multiple times. I'm able to connect with him because I know that the struggle he's gone through with that, and to see like, hey, maybe this might be the thing that gives me additional time, like an extra 3 weeks out of the year where I get to kind of go full time over the course of a few years could make a significant impact. So I guess the thing I'm taking from this is no matter what kind of job you have, find the times where you can, if you're a part-time reseller and you're considering going full-time, you're considering trying to make it more of a, or even if you don't want to go full-time, you just want to say, hey, I want to go from making an extra $5,000 a year to making an extra $20,000 a year. I need to pay my car payment. Like I want to pay that off or something like that. Is to find those times where you can and slowly increase it. It doesn't have to be an overnight thing. Like I'm looking at this as an extra 3 weeks a year, which I'm blessed. Like not everybody gets that opportunity, but an extra 3 weeks a year over the course of 5 years can really improve the amount of items I have, some knowledge that I have. So I'm not expecting like, hey, this year I'm going to be able to like just jump ship and go full time because I got an extra 3 weeks. Well, what it does do is it's over a period of time, it's going to make that more likely a possibility. So I think, for our listeners, is no matter where you're at, is if you can kind of think about it, if every year you're growing, that starts to stack exponentially, especially when you're thinking about things like knowledge and even inventory. Like, this, I mean, you're selling more of your items at a steeper discount. I know you are, which you couldn't do if you didn't have a big inventory already. If you were just stuck on, I can only sell things that I'm sourcing right now, you weren't making any money on anything you currently had, it probably wouldn't be enough, right? Like, so because you've been able to build up over years an inventory base, even though I'd love to be fast nickel, kind of having that is what over time allows you to make a living even when things are rough. So I'm just kind of having that long-term perspective on that. And one last thing, we've kind of gotten settled now. The move is pretty much done. And so we're really trying to get eBay rolling again. And it was amazing because for the couple of months when we were leading up to our move from California to Texas, we were kind of really slow on the store. We had our stores handling time was a little bit longer. We weren't really sending offers. We weren't really taking many offers unless it was really good. We were trying to offload a bunch of our inventory. So now it's like, all right, well, let's send out some offers. So we've got like, hey, there's 15 items that have offers available. Let's send those out. Like that day, it was like overnight, like turning on a light switch. not just those items, but like other items started selling. It's like, we haven't had sales like this in a long time. So that, again, it's only anecdotal, but it just goes to show that if you are not active, it has a negative impact on your store, 100%. And then the moment you start doing things like sending offers, accepting offers, it does start to trigger other sales coming into your store. So that was kind of my experience this last couple of weeks, is just seeing, hey, look, there's things coming in now. Like I'm starting to get sales, even on stuff that I didn't send offers on, but because I haven't sent offers in a month or two. So it does make a big difference if you're not doing those things. Not only do you get the increased probability that you're going to sell one of those items that you're sending an offer on, but you're also most likely, all indicators are pointing towards, you're also going to be able to sell other items in your store just because the algorithm will be rewarding you.
No, I agree. It is interesting because a few things you said. One is, I agree. If I didn't have this large inventory, I don't know if I'd be reselling right now, honestly. Right? The large reselling has allowed me to be able to, even though things are slow, I'm still selling stuff, right? Now, I'm not selling anywhere close to the volume I was selling 6 months ago. It's crazy. I'm down 20%. Okay. But even with that 20%, I'm still able to make it. And one thing I'll say, a lot of people talk negatively about home runs, right? In the sense that, you can't always be looking for the home runs. You got to have those consistent things that you're always selling. But home runs have been holding things up, right? So I may have a slow day, but I'll sell something that's worth 400 to 500 the next day, and it more than makes up for the slow day, right? And so I think if you see home runs, like, why would you not pick those up, right? Even if it's a little bit out of your niche, maybe if it's out of your comfort zone, but you think you can swing it, you know how to make it happen, I would say pick it up. That's just my thoughts, because I know right now, there's all this talk that's going around that, niche down, only sell, what you know, and just repeat the process over and over again, and you'll get better, which there's truth to that. But at the same time, and in an economy where there is no certainty, I think there is value in having a wide variety of things. Now, when you're talking about being active, I agree. In the sense that even now, I think it's more important to be active because of everything, whether it's send offer, whether it's, accepting offers, whether it's shipping on the same day. And the reason I say that is because I think the algorithm is stronger. I get the sense that it is more looking to those sellers that are looking to sell and make that sell through. Because remember, eBay wants to sell through. Now, we're going to talk about a little bit later what that sell through is. But I'm glad sales are coming through. I'm glad you're selling some stuff. I'm glad you're settled.
That's a big deal for sure.
It's kind of weird, this new normal, but
yeah,
I don't know. It's good. It's a good thing. I'm glad you're able to move. Right now, I would say if my son didn't have one more year, I'd be out of California, very possibly. So, hey, before we move on, one thing that brings me comfort is the fact that even though I am terrible at bookkeeping, my reseller genie is not. And so if you ever get in this place like, oh, I don't even know what to do with these Excel spreadsheets, I don't know how to check out my P&L, meaning my profit and loss, go to my reseller genie. You can sign up using our code, all caps Pure Hustle. You'll get 15% off the first month. And with that 15% off the first month, you'll be able to import all your eBay sold from last year, this year. You'll be able to keep track of your inventory, your shipping, your fees, your promoted listing fees, whatever expenses there are. And it's going to help you know your numbers. It's going to help you with your taxes. And I strongly, strongly recommend my reseller genie. So again, go to the link below and use our code Pure Hustle, all caps, and get 15% off that first month. All right, you have any random stories here, Mike?
Yeah. So, okay, a couple of things. So, I mentioned a few podcasts ago about an item that I was out of stock, unfortunately, on because of the move, and it was like a weird, freaky situation. And the buyer did not respond. Like, it was one of those situations where, like, I sent the, like, hey, I could offer you this. I could offer you this. I could cancel if you'd like to cancel. I can give you 10% off other things in my store. Like, I did all the things. They don't respond. And I get it. Like, you could just press buyer requests to cancel. You deal with that, right? Like it's up to you. I just couldn't. I was like, no. I mean, I'm out of stock. They're not responding. I don't want to be guilty of just lying to an eBay rep if this came down to a fight, right? So I just did the out of stock. I took the hit. I took the ding. And then was it Harry Tornado who commented? Somebody commented
about gift cards.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So, and again, this isn't a recommendation. Like people should do this or not do this, but I thought this was a really interesting comment. And so I kind of want to share that. And then I wanted to share like the end part of this story. It has like a part 2 of my item being out of stock. Okay. So, we had a comment, and I'm pretty sure it was Harry Tornado, mentioned that one of the things that they do, if a buyer, I mean, you're doing your due diligence, right? You're reaching out to the buyer. Hey, this is the situation, and like, can we resolve it? They're not willing or don't respond to you. One possibility that you could do is send them and let them know in a message like, sorry, I'm going to have to, I will refund this order. But, to make up for the inconvenience, I'm going to be sending you a gift card, maybe and a coupon to my eBay store or something like that. And so you go get a $5 Starbucks card or whatever kind of card, plus throw in a coupon for your eBay store, and you mail it and you use that tracking as your tracking for the item. And then you go and you refund the customer. So technically, as far as eBay is concerned, an item was shipped and then you refunded the customer. So the customer gets their money back. They also get like a, hey, I'm sorry situation. And you're not taking that ding. Now, people may fall on different lines as far as like, is that ethical? Is it not ethical? And I'm not necessarily recommending it because eBay may or may not have their views on what that maybe go against policies. But I do think that that's a ingenious way of getting around the situation. And I mean, you're ending up with the same outcome. The buyer gets their money back. The only thing that's different is the buyer gets like a, hey, I'm sorry this happened gift card. So you're out $5 and you're not taking the ding on your account. So it's like, I mean, it seems like a pretty smart option to do. All that to be said, my kind of long-term thing is I refunded this buyer weeks ago. They comment back and they were willing to take one of my offers of like, hey, I've got this other item that's kind of similar. If you're interested in that, I've got another item. I didn't even have it listed, but I explained it if you want that, or I could cancel and they didn't respond. I refunded them. Weeks go by. Then they respond like, sure, I'll take that other item. So now I'm in this like, well, dang it. Like I already took the hit on that. Yeah. So now I'm like, well, I could. And so I told him like, well, let me list that item for you. I'll give you a discount on that. So now I'm like, do I call eBay and say, hey, like I did an out of stock, but I actually like resolved this with the customer and we sold something else instead and made an exchange? Like if they would take that out of stock off of my,
I doubt it.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, I don't know. So I know I talked about the kind of two different things, but related. I'm sure Orlando, you have something to say about the idea, but again, I'll let our listeners kind of make up their mind where they fall on that. I get not recommending it. eBay might be totally against it, but it's just a interesting concept, right? Like, cause it doesn't hurt anybody and it does offer like a, hey, I'm sorry to the customer.
Yeah. Well, the whole conversation came out of Kasich store who last year got suspended for doing the method that we always encourage. And I still encourage it where, you're out of stock. So you tell them, hey, I don't have this item. I can instead send you this, or we can cancel the transaction. And then the buyer says, well, please cancel. And then you hit buyer ask to cancel. So I guess that did not work in favor over there. I've never had a problem with it, but it's not to say it won't happen to me. To me, I would definitely I would think, a strong argument with eBay in the sense that the buyer truly said, cancel it. Mm-hmm. So when I click buyer ask to cancel, I'm not lying. Buyer asked to cancel. And that to me it's very black and white. To me, that's safer than the other alternative. The gift card alternative gets tricky. The reason it gets tricky is, one, you're sending something out that you did not list. So if the buyer really wants to, the buyer could put an INAD and keep the gift card. Right? And so you're out that money. Right? The second is eBay is not a big fan of like communications outside of sales. Like they just don't they don't encourage that. And so I just think, yeah, in a real world scenario, everybody's happy, right? It seems like the great scenario. In the eBay terms of service, it gets really sketch. And so again, I agree with you. Like, to each their own, to whatever you feel like doing. I'm gonna keep doing our method where I offer something. If it's not available, I ask them if they want to cancel. If they say please cancel, I'll just cancel, and that's it. Like, to me, that seems reasonable. Now, I think when people get in trouble is when they do that a lot, when they're really out of stock. One of our good friends that we've had here before had that scenario where they were cross-listing and they had a ton of items that kept listing on other sites, and then it would sell on eBay, and then they had to hit out of stock, and then eBay is like, all right, we're done. Like, you can't keep doing this. Okay, so yeah, I mean, I like even right now, I'm in a scenario where I sold something and I broke it before packing it. It was a vintage toy truck, and like I broke the hitch off of it. And I messaged the buyer, and right now it's like 3 a.m, so they're not going to get back to me. And they may never get back to me. So do I ship the broken item and get the negative feedback? Do I just cancel it and then nothing? His response is non-response, which is a suggestion to cancel. I know that's a stretch, but I'm just throwing it out there, right? I don't know what to do. This is why I think eBay really, I know we already did a whole episode. We probably should have brought this up. eBay should give people who have top rated seller and consistent sales like 3 grace, 3 grace cancellations, right? Because buyers can cancel all day long without any ramifications. Yeah, they tell us that people, end up getting whatever penalty and so on, but we don't know about that, right? And so same thing with buyers. They don't have to know that we as sellers, get dinged after 3 grace cancellations. Those would have been useful for me in the last 2-3 months. So anyways, I get it. It's a tough one because eBay isn't very clear. They're clear on like if buyer has to cancel, you can click it, but the fact that people have gotten suspended and so on, that's kind of interesting. So, all right. So my random story it's kind of a funny one. It's not, I don't know if there's a moral to this story. So I picked up a whole Bose unit, like, remote speakers, a subwoofer, cables and all this. And what I always do with Bose stuff is I never sell it whole. You always make a lot more money by separating all the components. Because sometimes people are like, hey, I want to replace the remote. I want to replace the speakers. Well, I myself have a Bose system for my TV and everything in my living room. So I decided to pack some stuff over by my living room. And I took my remote with me so I can like turn up the volume on my TV. And so I'm like getting ready to go to the post office. And I'm like, man, like, you know what? I want to catch this last show, whatever. I got to turn up the volume. So I asked my son, I'm like, dude, where's the remote? So we're like looking everywhere for the remote. I can't find the remote anywhere. But then I see a remote that's sold. And I'm like, wait a second. Didn't I pack that remote? Like, why is it sitting there? And I'm like, wait a second. And I'm like, is it possible that I packed my own remote and almost shipped it out? And so I go to the package, I open it, and sure enough, I almost shipped them my own remote control. So that would have been an interesting one. Number one, because the great mystery of where did it go would have happened. And I would have gotten an iNet out of it. And yeah, so anyways, I don't know if that adds value to anybody. Just make sure that if you're selling remotes, that you keep your own remotes in far distance from what you're packing. So that was good times.
That's funny.
And then I thought it was funny because
it's hilarious.
Because what would happen? That remote's gone and shipped back, and then do I ask the buyer, "Hey, can you ship back my remote? It's actually mine.
My remote, please."
Yeah. And I have a sound bar, so if I don't have that remote and I turn off the sound bar, I can't turn it back on. So I would have been in a mess. And the other one, I went thrifting in I was in Seattle. And one thing I've always learned is you can't really negotiate too much at the store that shall not be named, Goodwill. But when you go to St. Vincent de Paul or the others, like there's always opportunity. So I went to one, and I guess everything that was green was half off. And I go, I'm looking, and I'm like, how about, what's this right here? And they're like, oh, that one that's green is half off. And I'm like, how about this other item? And she looked at me and she's like, I think that one's half off too. I was like, really? It's not green. She's like, yeah, whatever. It doesn't matter. And the only thing that I didn't like was when I looked up comps for a lot of the items, it wasn't worth picking up anyways. So my lesson here is just because you're getting a great deal doesn't mean you need to pick it up. Right? Because there was a lot of stuff. She was like, I'll give it to you half off. I'll give it to you half off. And I only picked up one thing. I actually shared an Instagram story about this yesterday, the day before this podcast drops, where I picked up a Fitbit for like $25 and I flipped it I listed it in the airport because my plane was delayed. I used Photo Room, took pictures, listed it. And by the evening it sold for like $75 and I made like $40. So
nice.
It wasn't too bad. So there you go. So I always like, selling while on the road. I wish I had taken more time to go sourcing, but thrift prices in there were crazy. Tonka trucks that sell for like 30 on eBay were 30 in the thrift. So, this is one thing I shared on the Instagram story is even if inflation goes down, let's say we get back to 2% where I guess we're supposed to be, prices aren't going to go back, right? We're not going to have the dollar menu at McDonald's anymore. It's not like thrift stores. People are like, well, if they get flooded and supply and demand, I don't think it applies to thrift stores. One thrift stores are selling Hawaiian shirts for like $8 to $10 here in San Diego, even the cheap ones. And actually Rain Spooners now are selling for like 15 to 20. They're not one day going to go, you know what? We probably need to drop these prices. I don't think that's ever happening. So just be aware of that you may go one day, I'll be able to go back to thrift stores. Like, I don't think that time's coming because if you look historically, whenever inflation goes up, prices never go down, even if inflation goes down.
Right? I mean, the alternative, and I think you're right. I don't think prices go down. Maybe down to an extent in certain fields, like across the board, it's not going to go down. But I think the other side of the coin is eventually the other aspect of inflation is salaries will be inflated. And so the equivalent of like paying $8 to $10 for a Hawaiian shirt in 2026, 2027, who knows, might feel the same as paying $3 for a Hawaiian shirt back in 2018. So the prices won't go down, but if inflation goes up, salary inflation goes up, the equivalence it's going to be there. Because you could say like, for instance, a good example would be something like a candy bar, right? Like when our parents or grandparents talk about like when I was a kid, candy bars were 10 cents. And it's like, yeah, but like 10 cents to you back then was kind of like paying $1 or $2 for a candy bar today. It's not that big of a difference, even though it costs significantly more. You still kind of have almost the same access to candy bars, even though the prices are higher because everything has gone up. So I think you're right. I don't think prices come back down, but eventually I think it almost evens out. So maybe unless the thrift stores continue to raise their prices, but if let's say they cap it $10 for a Hawaiian shirt. I see what you're saying. Okay. Then over the course of the next 5 years, it might be like, okay, that's the new thing. I pay $10 for a Hawaiian shirt, but now they sell for $75, $80 on eBay, and that's kind of like the equivalent of me buying them for $3 and selling them for $40 or $50. So who knows?
It's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be, we're gonna be with our grandkids and be like, kids, the good old days when we go to the thrift and you can pick up a pair of shoes for $4. Like, that's gonna happen.
They'll never know like that we had to walk to school uphill in the snow both ways. They'll never get it.
It's gonna be fascinating. That's all I'm saying. So, all right. Hey, before we move on, I want to say thank you to everyone that continues to support our podcast via Patreon. It's been really helpful, especially, in this whole transition. Now people are saying, hey, actually the podcast is better now that Mike's gone, which kind of, I don't know how I feel about that, but
no, I'm not gone.
Okay.
The way you say it makes it sound like I'm gone. I'm not gone.
I know.
Just not there.
I know. But, it's different. But thanks to everyone that supported us. We're able to still bring the quality audio, bring the quality video, and just everything that comes along with the podcast. And, we continue to provide free content. So thank you to everyone. If you haven't yet signed up and you want to help us out, go to patreon.com/PureHustlePodcast. That's patreon.com/PureHustlePodcast. You can go to the link below for $5.55 a month. you can help support the podcast. And the bonus is you get to jump on the Discord that has all kinds of different sellers on there. And we keep getting new sellers on there, whether they be people that sell on Depop, on Amazon, on Mercari, on eBay, vintage, new items, retail arbitrage. I love the plethora of different variety of resellers that we have on there. We have a good time. We learn a lot from each other. We have camaraderie. People are encouraging to one another. Just a great place to be. And as always, if you haven't been following us on social media, we are Pure Hustle Podcast on all social media, except for X. We are Pure Hustle Cast on X. And as always, you can leave us a phone call, 619-738-1170. That's 619-738-1170. Or shoot us an email at purehustlepodcast@gmail.com. And if you haven't caught us over on YouTube, jump on over, check out the podcast, hit that subscribe button. You can always jump back to just listen to the podcast, but help us out. We're trying to get those subscribers up. Smash that like button. As always, thank you to all of you that support us on iTunes by writing a review. We are the most reviewed reselling podcast, the number one reselling podcast out there. Thankful for all of you. All right, so we're going to do a deep dive here in reseller topics. So we'll see where this goes.
USPS and UPS prices are battling it out. Which one is better? And eBay CEOs are against each other? Which one is more seller-centric? Let's talk about that. Orlando, take it away.
So I'm going to say something, and maybe it'll be controversial, but I've mentioned this before. I love USPS Ground Advantage. I think it's like one of the best moves that has been made by the post office probably since I've started reselling. And the reason I say that, it's twofold. So if you haven't yet, and you ship a lot of stuff UPS Ground, right? Or FedEx Ground, take a look at USPS Ground. It's actually cheaper at times. Now, obviously, it depends on the dimensions. It depends on where it's going. But I've been shipping more stuff USPS Ground, and it's been great. So if you disagree, let me know, because I know a lot of people do not like the post office. And I understand, like the insurance, right? The other reason I like USPS Ground Advantage is that you get insurance on everything now up to $100. It wasn't like that before. If you did USPS first class, you really didn't have any insurance, right? You had to buy the insurance. Now you get to up to 100, which is great. And UPS offers also 100 on any item. So it's very competitive. Also, the times, depending on where you're shipping throughout the country, sometimes the times might be faster on USPS Ground Advantage than UPS. So I encourage everyone definitely to look at that. And I say do this at your own risk, not financial or shipping advice. I don't know, whatever we'll put it. There's times that people buy stuff priority, and I look at USPS Ground Advantage, and it's like off by a day. And knowing that I ship the same day, I know that it's going to get there in time. And so sometimes I'll choose USPS Ground Advantage over priority. And I haven't had an issue. Now, I did have some people DM me on Instagram, tell me, yeah, Orlando, we were doing that, and I got dinged. So do it at your own risk. I haven't been dinged yet. I've done it multiple times, and it's been great. So the key thing is, do you get it there at the time window that eBay says you'll get it there?
Yeah, I mean, most of the time that's what's going to matter. I think probably more often than not, going USPS is the safer route, in the sense of, like, if it's going to a military base or it's going to a PO box or various things like that, you could go wrong going UPS instead of USPS. You're probably more likely to run into issues. But again, we even had people who have commented or have mentioned in the Discord, maybe, or maybe it was a YouTube comment, that they, based off where they're at, they get UPS, their USPS doesn't come. And like, so you could end up with a customer who's upset, but again, it's almost like a, like rolling the dice, and it's the exception, not the rule, where there's those weird, like, if it goes FedEx, it never makes it to my house. They always deliver it wrong. And that's why I asked for UPS. Those do happen, but I don't think those are the normal. So you're probably, if you were a betting person, you're probably fine doing it that way, but it could go wrong for sure.
Okay. So, and again, I will say the insurance on USPS, like, they've been stricter about it, but in my last 2 years of selling thousands of items, I've only had 3 break. 3. Okay. And out of those 3, the post office did not pay me for only one item. So I'm okay with that. All right. You ready to talk about some eBay history here?
Let's do it.
Okay. So right off the bat, the former CEO, Devin Wenig, and let's separate it from the whole scandal about the pig's head and all that, okay? Let's just look at this, because he's not even tied to that, okay? He's not even tied to that, but people are alleging that he was, but that never came out to be true. So I don't want to discuss any of that. But when you think of Devin Wenig, as far as, remember eBay Open 2019, he came out, he gave the keynote. What are some things you remember from that he was kind of sharing? I'm putting you on the spot, I know.
No, it's good. I know there was the seller protections, right? That was a big thing.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't necessarily him, but it was one of the other, like the vice presidents, about the kind of the social media aspect of not really social media, but trying to have that aspect of the, what's it called? eBay, where they've got like, you can go in if you're a comic book person, and they have whole like almost blog pages on that.
Mm-hmm.
There was also the white background, which was pretty cool, that was coming out. But the biggest thing was, I almost felt like they were trying to move from a eBay model to almost like Amazon, where they wanted more like repeat customers. The buy it again thing, I definitely remember that being something. Didn't really feel like super convenient or working for me, but I liked the idea in the sense of, I think he mentioned like, especially if it's like going to a warehouse and they're coming out with eBay boxes, and those eBay boxes are on people's, porches, and that's advertising.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
So there was some cool things that were mentioned. I mean, there's more if I were to think about it, but those are some of the ones that kind of stand out.
So to me, aside from all the macro stuff, right? We can talk about how reselling has changed due to different, administrations in office, as far as the country. We can talk about how reselling has changed, right? Because the big event that happened in 2020, right? That affected everybody in the world. We can talk about how reselling has changed on eBay. Just overall, the macroeconomics of things, right? But I wanted to focus on here on the change in CEOs, because I think it has had a major effect on how eBay functions. So some things I look back and, yeah, buy it again was one of those things that was great. It was one of those things, if somebody buys something from you and you have the same item, they could buy from again. So it really didn't help the sellers, right, that were in the secondary market. That was more like Amazon-ish, right? The other thing was managed delivery. Remember managed delivery? Do you remember what that was?
Refresh my memory.
It was Amazon FBA, but eBay style.
Yes. Yeah, that's what I was thinking about, where it's like it came from a warehouse. Because my thought process originally was, because that's when he mentioned, hey, imagine eBay boxes on all of these porches. And it was going to be from, basically, it's like the eBay version of FBA. That's why I said they kind of wanted to be like Amazon, where people would send things in and then eBay would be the ones boxing it and sending it out, kind of like Amazon FBA. My thought process was, why not just basically give away your boxes to your sellers, make it really cheap for sellers to get a hold of boxes, and then it's free advertisement in that way. So, because I think he was spot on with because I think he gave the numbers, and it was an astonishing number of items are sold through eBay, but most people don't know, like when boxes are going out, that like eBay's not getting the advertisement for that, but like Amazon, I mean, you see that check mark, you see those trucks, you see the lockers inside of 7-Elevens, right? Like they're getting that advertisement everywhere. Like imagine if eBay was doing the same. So I liked that thought of, imagine eBay boxes everywhere, but I didn't like the idea of like, because it wouldn't work for me. Like I'm not going to be sending things into eBay. If you were, you're going to almost basically be doing the Amazon FBA, where it's like, hey, I bought 100 things of toothpaste and I'm sending it into eBay, and they're going to manage that for me. Which at that point, it's like, that's just Amazon. Like eBay is not going to be Amazon. But I appreciated the idea of the marketing aspect.
Yeah. So I think there were ideas that were interesting, right? We all were like, wow. But what I liked about it was, to me, it seemed a lot more seller focused, I guess, and like trying to find ways for us to get our products out there more, right? To sell more, to bring in more buyers, right? To bring in a lot more buyers, right? Because if eBay was able to find a way that they could be competitive to Amazon, they obviously could get some of the market share of Amazon, right? They could get some of the market share of Walmart. Wasn't even doing Walmart Plus back then, but whatever it is, more buyers could come in. But since then, we've seen a steady decline in buyers, right? And it's like, whoa, wait a second. Why is that happening? Right? We went through 2020. That was the biggest reselling year, maybe of all time, right? As far as eBay goes. Okay, like through the roof, right? It was insane. But somehow we haven't retained buyers, right? We haven't grown. Like you would think the number, I think it was like at 159 million back in 2019. I could be off my numbers. But you would have thought because of 2020, we would have 200 plus million by now, right? All of these people are online. And instead, we've declined. And I think now we're like 130 something million, okay? So I'm like, okay, what has changed, right? We can say at the macro level things have changed, but maybe something else has changed. And so I started reading some articles here and there. I started doing a deep dive. And then I'm like, a lot of reasons that things change in business or like, in education, a lot of reasons that schools change the way they do things is because who's the head of the school, right? They have a new vision. They have a new plan. And so I started looking at earnings reports and what people were saying. And I've been working on this for like, a month or so because I was like, there has to have been something. So I looked and I found this quote from a CEO, Jamie Aon. This is when did this happen? This is part of eBay's Q2 2021 earnings call, right? So this is after the huge upsurge that we had and everything. And eBay had lost 2 million active buyers in that quarter, okay? But this is what he said. He said, we've discontinued legacy tactics that led to low value, infrequent, or one and done buyers. Our buyer base is starting to evolve based on this strategy. These high volume buyers are growing compared to a year ago, and their spend on eBay is growing even faster. This higher quality mix of buyers increases value for sellers and will lead to improved health of our ecosystem over the long term. This is something that I laid out last July when we talked about the tech-led reimagination as being focused on turning buyers into lifelong enthusiasts on the platform and moving away from the tactics that we had in 2019, what was really just about the number of active buyers, even low-value buyers or one-and-done buyers. I've got the whole organization pivoted to focusing on those high-value buyers that are buying over $800, buying 6 times a year, or buyers who sell. And so you think that these buyers, they're so strong at eBay that they are 20% of them make up 75% of GMV, gross merchandise value. That's basically when people buy stuff and they sell and eBay gets the fees. And the goal is, how do we turn more buyers into these lifelong enthusiasts? I've met lots of buyers. They wake up and get a cup of coffee and they turn on eBay and open the eBay app. And our focus is really not just the total number, but really focus on how are we driving these buyers to become enthusiasts. The metrics that we show on the board deck are trailing 12-month metrics. So obviously lapping the buyers that we acquired in Q2. But going forward, our focus really will be on these long-term enthusiasts. So I'm excited to say that our GMV is growing. They're growing as a population, and more you're going to see us doing things to drive that longevity because we know the things that move buyers up the cohort curves into long-term buyers. And so I'm like, all right, now I understand. Now I understand why we have send offers, right? Why that come, right? Because you're trying, right? It's people that already bought stuff are looking at stuff they're interested in, and you're sending them out. This is why we're doing coupons. Right? Coupons, you can't just send coupons to random people. Most of the time, you're sending the people that already bought stuff. This is why your storefront is important now. Where back in the day, it was like, listen and forget it. It doesn't matter. But now they're pushing storefronts. Now they're pushing newsletters, emails to buyers, all these different things. And so this is why this is the practical application. I'll go more into this. To me, seems it's no longer about listen and forget it. It's no longer about finding those one-off items. It's more about nurturing the people who are buying stuff from you and finding stuff that those people have bought to get them to buy that stuff again. Right? So you're basically, I don't know if it's the right word, but you are niching down, right? So if most of your buyers were like vintage toys, you need to keep sourcing vintage toys. Because that's where things are going to be driven to. If you're selling vintage t-shirts, you need to keep sourcing vintage t-shirts. At least this is the way I'm seeing it.
But if it's buy again, that's not necessarily saying that it's buy from the same store, a similar type of item. I almost feel like it's the Amazon style of it needs to be a replenishable where you've got multiple of where a customer can come back and buy again. I could be wrong, but that's almost what that sounds like. Not just like they're looking for return buyers at a store or in a category. And that, again, it's that push almost to that eBay or that Amazon style, because that's not going to help a garage sale type seller like us. Even if you niche down and you might have a handful of returning customers, which is a good thing, but that's not the same thing as, hey, they want someone who comes on and they always get their, I don't know, whatever it is, their kids' diapers on eBay because there's a store that has them and it's a replenishable. I almost feel like that's what they're looking for, those kinds of return buyers. It's almost like they can do like how Amazon has the subscribe and save. It's almost like that's eBay's looking for a subscribe and save.
Well, let me elaborate more. So, Mike and we've always gone like, always pay attention to what's said in eBay Open. Always pay attention to the seller updates, because there's always something that everyone misses. And then they go back to a year or two later and go, oh, eBay was selling this the whole time. So I found something like that. So eBay Open last year, one of their VPs did a presentation on enthusiast buyers. This is what those are. They are 70% of the GMV. They are 9 times more to buy than regular buyers. They spend about $3,000 a year on eBay. And there's 2 types. One is they're category centered. So they're either people that buy trading cards, sports memorabilia. That's what they were saying. They're pushing that. Like it's more of like collectibles and so on. Then the other type is value seekers. So these are people that are looking for secondhand items, but they're looking for free shipping and they're looking for seller offers. Right? So if you fit into one of these 2, my guess is the algorithm is pushing people to those sellers. And that's why those people are doing really well, right? Like trading cards right now, people are still doing well. Sports memorabilia, people are still doing well. If you're selling shoes, you might be doing well, but it's only if you're attracting the value seekers. And those value seekers are people that like free shipping and people that like making offers, right? So gone are the days of like, I'm just going to list something, not put any best offer. Gone are the days that I'm not going to, have any free shipping. Like unless you are in a category that's a highly collectible category, highly demanded category, the algorithm is not going to push you unless you are category centered or you're a value seeker seller. Does that make any sense to you?
Yeah, I think that's good.
All right, that's what they said. So I'll put the link on the video in our description below so you can watch the video yourself. But they said it. They said it. And so to me, it makes sense that 2 reasons why eBay doesn't care about how many active buyers there are. Number 1 is they're making a lot more money on promoted listings. Okay, so they're still making their profits. Okay, number 2, they're not trying to get more buyers. They're just trying to keep the buyers that they have and get them to spend more. Right? So you need to keep that in mind when you're sourcing. And I do now. I will say now when I'm sourcing, I don't just think about like, oh, here's the comps, here's the sell-through. I sometimes go like, do I already have a bunch of people that follow my store, or do I have a bunch of repeat sellers that have saved searches that will most likely, the moment I list this, buy it right away? And I've had lately my new thing is I'm buying a lot of Vietnam era stuff. Right. So I've sold like helmets, I've sold pins, I've sold a lot of stuff from the 70s, and I'm having some of the same kind of buyers buying those items. And so this is why I think newsletters may be something we need to start thinking about if you haven't thought about it, which is kind of weird, right? Because that's not how eBay used to be, but maybe now, I don't know. Maybe I'm off a little bit, but watch the video. Let us know your comments below, what your thoughts are on this information. So this is what I think. I think we went from eBay 2019 and before with Devin Wennig, we're trying to attract as many buyers as possible. And now with the new CEO, eBay saying, we don't care how many new buyers we have. We just care about developing the buyers that we have and having people keep coming back for the same kinds of items. So let us know.
Quantity versus quality, right?
I guess so. I don't know, whatever way people want to interpret it. So, all right, that is our reseller topics. It's been kind of slow right now. There is a seller update coming up. eBay Open is coming up here soon. So, stay tuned for that one. So, all right. Hey, before we move on, if you haven't yet checked out Whatnot, just to find some items there, maybe for yourself or maybe to source to flip. If you use our link below and sign up for the first time, you'll get a free $15 credit. So I strongly encourage you guys, if you haven't been on Whatnot, you haven't bought anything, go there all the time. We get a little email that says, hey, somebody who signed up bought something. And I think it's really cool because people are either profiting off of that link by buying something and flipping it, or they're getting something they want for that price. So check out Whatnot below, use our link, sign up, and get that free $15 credit. Yeah. All right. It's time to help out some buyers here. Some sellers.
Bolo.
What's your bolo?
Yeah, bolos are items to be on the lookout for when you're at garage sales, thrift stores, because these items tend to be very profitable. They're going to make you that money on eBay, which is what we all want to do. So, all right, my bolo. Okay, so we've kind of talked about this stuff before. And just a reminder to pay attention to what's popular in pop culture. I'm not very good with pop culture stuff unless it starts really making the news or in my circles on social media or whatever, friend groups. And a lot of times it's too late. I don't always, even though I think like a reseller, I often miss the like, oh man, there was this big controversy. I should have bought that like player's rookie card and then I'd be like killing it right now. So I often forget those types of things until it's too late. But it might even be kind of late on this one, but like just think about something like the Barbie movie, right? Like that not only just was like a movie that made like Barbie a thing, like people were talking about again, but like super controversial. And like there's like tons going on in the world right now about like whether you like the Barbie movie, didn't like the Barbie movie, what your thoughts were politically about the Barbie movie versus, other movies. And so it's just one of those reminders that, hey, maybe I'm sure we have plenty of listeners who had some Barbie stuff sell that was like, oh, wait, why did this all of a sudden sell? And you didn't realize like, oh, I should have upped my price. There was a Barbie movie coming out. Barbie's one of those things that's a little tough because it's such a saturated. It's not even the right word. It's like saturated in the sense that there's so much out there that you really got to know. You got to know the niche. Like, you got to know what you're doing because it's not like it's even something like for instance, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which we've talked about. It's not as prolific as something like Barbie. Like, even though there's tons of Teenage Mutant Ninja toys throughout the years, it's not like made in the volume that something like Barbie is with like stuff. So you're more likely if something like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles becomes popular, they have a movie, something like that.
They do.
That I know. And that's what I mean. Like you're more likely that no matter what you have is going to be valuable as opposed to something like a Barbie movie where it's like, there's almost too much Barbie. But even still, I'm sure that if you had the collectible Barbie stuff, you had the stuff that was worthwhile, that stuff would have gone up, right? Because then the people who are really collecting, that there's more hype, there's more interest. So just the kind of general one is be paying attention to pop culture. So Barbie is kind of I wouldn't really get into Barbie because I don't know enough about it, but I know people who like they were able to make more money. Like I know people who are like that's their niche, and so they're able to like, hey, this new movie came out and capitalized on it. So that's the bolos. Pay attention, know your niches, and then know when your niche is all of a sudden getting a boost in pop culture.
Yeah, and so I want to add to that. Not my bolo, but I want to add to that. So last week, Commonwealth Picker had posted on Instagram like a bunch of Pee Wee Herman stuff that was selling for like crazy.
Oh,
and he got a lot of flack for that. Like people are like, bro, that's cold. Like, the person just died. But that's the reality of reselling, right? You got to move fast. I actually passed on a vintage Pee Wee Herman doll at a garage sale like 2 months ago.
We talked about Pee Wee Herman as a bolo though.
Did we?
Yeah, because I was talking about Blippi, and then I made the comment like Blippi's kind of like a Pee Wee Herman, different. But
okay.
And then we started talking about the toys, and so
okay,
remember we looked at the couch.
Not the same. Do not.
No, but I mean, like, as far as just like the silly, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's generationally different, and even the style and stuff. But like, I kind of made that like his mannerisms were somewhat similar. But then we looked up that couch and like all the toys. Like that was a
Yeah.
It is a pretty big bolo, even prior to the passing.
So, and there's no way to plan for that. Okay. Like there's no, like, I think somebody's going to pass away this year, whatever. But I will say it does help to be, in tune with current events and stuff, because, you just never know when things are going to sell. And, my counter argument to all the people that I hated on Kevin over in Commonwealth Picker is that a lot of people just want to connect with those items because they really, looked up to that person or whatever it is. And so they're willing to pay. And to them, they don't care. Like they'll pay the 3X or the 4X or the 5X on an item because it's important to them. Right. And so they don't see it as they're, as somebody is trying to, upsell them on stuff. They see it as like, hey, this item's available. I want to buy it. Same thing happened with, remember when Kobe Bryant passed, like all my Kobe Bryant stuff sold in like 30 minutes, like cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. It was crazy. And, I had other people that were like, wow, I got some Kobe stuff I didn't list, and they listed it and they're able to connect things with people. So yeah, I agree with you, and the Barbie one, that's tough. Just be careful out there. I've been at garage sales lately and people are trying to sell stuff for like $100 something. I'm like, come on now. Like this is not worth $100 something. So all right. Hey, my bolo. Okay. So I'm trying not to be vague. Like initially I put back to school items, but I want to elaborate what I mean by that. So there's a lot of stuff in schools that people buy to make their classrooms better. So for example, every department, depending on, the type of school, they have budgets, right? So some nice private schools have really nice budgets per department. Some schools don't have any budgets, right? But people are always looking for stuff. And so right now, teachers are trying to buy stuff to enhance their classroom, right? So for example, if you have a set of books that maybe an elementary library would want, like Goosebumps. I've mentioned Goosebumps before. Like that's something that right now, if people are offering you to buy from you, like you need to sell right now, right? There's no better time, right? I just recently sold a jumbo size of Bananagrams. Bananagrams, like this game, usually comes in small tiles, but these came in jumbo tiles that were, I don't know, like 8-inch by 8-inch or whatever. But that's so they can use with their classrooms, right? And it's sold I paid $3 and it's sold like for $50. There's like stuff like Osmo stuff that you can use with an iPad. And so that stuff will sell right now. I have a bunch of not Bluetooth, but wired keyboards for iPads. I have like 30 of them right now. And I'm pretty sure those are going to sell by the end of August. So I encourage you, like if you have items that have been sitting around that people can use in a classroom, especially in multiple quantities, now is the time to list them. And if you find them, now is the time to buy them. Right now, dual decks will sell really well because a lot of teachers, right, they have videos that they want to show in class and they're on VHS and if they don't have a VCR, or maybe they want a VCR DVD player so they can use their DVDs and their VHS. Right now, they want to buy those, right? TI-84s, calculators. We've talked about those. So think about all those kind of items. I know it's kind of vague, but I don't want to limit what you source out there because I think there's a lot of money to be made if you source, appropriately for items beginning the school year. I myself, all the time, I remember I'd always be looking for deals and I'd go to Amazon and people were selling it for crazy money. And I was trying to save the department money. And so I would go and buy whatever VHS or DVDs that I needed off of eBay because there was a better deal there. So things to think about. All right, Mike, what are you looking forward to here, man?
I don't know. Like I'm looking forward to, I feel like maybe it's similar to what I said last time, but just things moving now, like legitimately, like the store's moving again. And getting those sales, getting things kind of going. And watching, because it's a snowball, things snowball in pretty much every aspect of your life. As you start moving in a positive direction, it's either going to get more positive quickly, or if you're in a negative direction, it gets more negative quickly. And so eBay is the same way. Like as you start moving in a positive direction, more likely that things are going to just build momentum. So I'm excited for that momentum to pick up and really see the store start to take off. What about you?
I'm waiting for the fruits of my labor to finally come through. I this summer I've been working hard. I've been sourcing a lot. I've been listing a lot. And I'm just waiting for those sales to come through. We're almost at Q3. I will say right now, Halloween stuff is selling for me. So I'm glad that I listed that stuff early in the summer. If you have Halloween stuff that you haven't listed, right now you need to list, because right now people are buying. Think about it. We're only a month and a half, 2 months from Halloween. We're not that far away. I'm also I'm looking for the weather to cool down so I can eventually, get some good pickups like garage sales. I feel that, people have been out there. That's pretty much it. I'll be real with you. I'm just a little burned out from the process of, listing and not seeing sales come through. And so again, I'm a full-time guy. Okay. And so I'm waiting for things. I'm looking forward to things to rebound, and I'm hoping for things to rebound. And so that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. And hopefully the next update, things have improved. I do want this Q4. I want to dabble into Amazon again. I kind of stayed away from Amazon last Q4 because I wanted to experiment. And yeah, I think I missed out on money by not dabbling into Amazon. So we'll see I remember people are buying earlier. So I'm going to start sourcing earlier for Amazon. So that's what I'm looking forward to. So
nice.
All right. Well, hey, hopefully all of you were encouraged or you had thoughts that you want to share in the comments. And maybe, even discussing how eBay has changed has allowed you to go, you know what? I probably need to list differently. I probably need to source differently. Or maybe you just need to keep doing what you're doing. But with that being said, make sure to be real,
be relevant,
and be reselling late.
Peace.